Hey there, it's Chris. Welcome back to the Final Fantasy XII Ultima model, where last time we finally went and had a really good time putting all like little details and crenulations and kind of the surface embellishments on the model down here. We got a lot of this woodworking done, and a lot of this is now crossed off the list, finished, done. However, we're starting to look a little plain up in this area here. Starting to look a little plain, yeah, right over there. So I think today, rather than start on these legs, we're going to start and just get this medallion in here done, and that way you can cross more of this bottom stuff off the list. And rather than just kind of the last several sessions I've done when I've done detailing things, I've kind of drawn things out beforehand, just kind of cut it out on camera and got it done. This time I kind of want to show a little bit more of the drawing process and the design process of this. So what we're going to do is, even before this, we're going to wind up doing 4 layers of stuff to make this image on the side work. Now I'm going to get a little trippy real quick here, but it'll work its way out. Whoop. Okay, so when we're looking at this, as long as we can see my cursor, we're going to do 4 layers. We're going to have one bottom layer of this basswood piece that comes around and does this whole kind of crazy profile out. And that's going to be our base layer down there. And then we're going to have a second layer on top, which is just basically this rectangular piece that sits on top. You can see in here, this feels like it's set back from that. This whole side section feels like it's set back. So we're going to make this a separate piece on top. And then this medallion part on top of that comes around here, that's going to wind up being 2 layers thick in the end. Because if we change our view over to this, you can see this has a decent amount of thickness to it. And you can actually now see the difference in the relief between this front kind of part of the shield and this back kind of portion in there. So we're going to make this 4 layers thick, then it'll get carved down to be a little thinner than that in the end, but that's what our base is going to start off on this. So if we come back here, turn our display capture off, so we're back on this. So once again, I'm going to be using this really thin, the almost 16th inch piece of basswood. It winds up being just under 16 inches, so I think it's probably 1/20th of an inch because an engineer probably designed this thing. And that's what they do. They make weird numbers that don't go with anything. And although I said I was going to do everything on camera here, we're going to start off, I did do at least the basic rectangular size of the back piece we have here. It winds up being 1.33 wide by 1.75 tall, and I put a datum line down the middle, which I can barely see, but I'm hoping you can see it because I don't want that to kind of disrupt anything. And we're going to start by just cutting this thing. We can just cut that right out. Except, first thing you do, if ever you're kind of cutting weird shapes and stuff out of plywood, at least that I use whenever I cut things out, is rather than cut out this little kind of rectangular piece, go take your line right across, draw this line all the way across, and just cut this whole piece out. And then from that, cut out what you want. Because if you ever want to reuse this piece again, you now will have a straight datum line to reuse this piece that we have. Plus, I'm going to be using a lot of this anyway, and the pieces only get smaller from here as we go. So let's just get you out. That didn't want to break off. I thought that would snap. Apparently it didn't. There we go. All right. Don't need this anymore because every other piece is going to wind up being smaller than this one in the end. And if I can turn you around slightly so the legs of this are not in the way of me trying to design stuff. And give me a second. I need to move this over and out of the way. And I do want to actually cut this whole thing out because I'm going to be picking this up and putting it up against the model kind of on and off as we go because we want to make sure that we actually fit in here. So let's just say I'm up here and I just want to kind of see some major marks that I want. One major mark I'm going to be looking for is I want to know where that width is so we can make that kind of fit. And somewhere around in here seems to be kind of a big point. And that's really probably all I need for this. The rest I can kind of make up as I go. But all right, so if we want something like that, and we're just gonna, realistically, I can just kind of eyeball a lot of this stuff. So if we're coming up, although if we're going from one side to the other, it would be nice to actually have the two sides, I don't know, be symmetrical. Might be good. Okay, so that comes in a little bit, that comes in a little bit. You go up to there, you go up to there. It comes across, and then up, comes across, and then up. Okay, so we have that going. You'll need to come out to about there. Because now you come out all the way to the side. And then this side kind of just disappears behind everything back here. So we're just going to go ahead and do that. And that gives kind of our background on this. And that should work. Let's go ahead and cut that out. All right, so that gives us a little piece here. And that kind of, well, I guess I'll need to cut the top on that, but that kind of gives us at least the backing of this. Let's go ahead and cut this part. Alright, the back of that's going to wind up being hidden in the end, so not super concerned. So we have that. So now next thing I want to do, I'm going to trace this whole thing. So then we do the next part that goes inside it. It's not going to be any bigger than this. And yeah, okay. Just looking at my screen here, it looks like we want to be you kind of go up here. You kind of go up there. I kind of want to be slightly more on camera. And I actually want to be, I'm going to change this just a little bit. Yeah, we're going to go up something like this. We don't need to be any higher than that. That's really all we're going to need for this guy. So let's go ahead and cut this out. Now this one I can just follow the grain, because if it does split like that, you just cut it out like that. So Let's see, we want just a little bit more over there off. And then this one is just going to get glued onto here. Okay, so now that one's in place. Next piece, now we get these guys out of the way. Now we need to make a little medallion. And this looks like it's about as high as this is wide. So if I have you, so that means we want to be, what did I make this wide? 1 inch and 3/8. Okay, so we have that. And our total width is going to wind up being the same as this. So it's almost like it's a big old square. Almost like we are a big old square. So we have inch and just under 3/8, inch and just under 3/8. So you're there, and once again, we want to put a little datum line in here. Center line is good, makes life easier. Okay, this guy is going to wind up going up above that, something like this. So let's see, what do we have going on? We have upper end, looks like it's somewhere in here. That comes down. Okay, maybe another little kind of circle that doesn't quite go as far. That comes in down here. That does something like that. You're a little funky on the one side here, but okay, and in the end, this is going to wind up going on top of that. Bam. But I would like a second layer of this, which, although I'm going to keep on recording, odds are I'm going to be cutting this part out. Make this tilt. So that's that middle. All right, so before we do that, center. Do want everything on the outside to be large. All right, so we have that in there. That comes down. Do have one in the middle. We get a little bit of this. Okay, so we can do a little. Relief work in there, and we should probably do the same for this down here. Back it off, attach this in here, and we pretty well have what we're looking for. At least have you kind of hang up there. And there we go. We have our shield detail. And that is one more thing off the list. Alright, I don't know if I'm signing off for doing more of this. I'm not sure where we're going, so let's kind of go ahead and say from here on, as always, enjoy.